Hi guys, welcome to Pearceptive. Here's another impromptu kind of video I wanted to do. And as you can tell, it's titled 5 and a bit things I've learned from my final year in lockdown. So I felt this would be really good for people that are going into their final year, people that kind of want to understand what it's like to be at uni, especially at a kind of senior honours level. Uh, and it allows me to reflect a little bit on what I should have done, what I shouldn't have done, etc. So before I get onto that, I just want to give you a rundown of how things have been in the last year, briefly. So when I finished third year last year, I had a little bit of experience with the pandemic. My year just finished as the pandemic was getting started. Britain was going down into a lockdown. So with my exams and stuff like that, they were all affected by the lockdown. So I had to learn how to do my exams online and stuff like that. So it was quite scary. Obviously, it hadn't really been done before, but my uni was relatively okay about it. Um, but yeah, that brief experience got me a bit more prepared for my final year, which has obviously all been in lockdown. So I guess I'll explain what it was like in fourth year. So structurally, it was very similar to the makeup of the course of previous years. Well, mostly third year, right? So it's still you still had to do a required amount of credits and gain a certain grade for that to receive those credits, and you still had to dedicate the same, maybe even more time to learning and studying. Of course, at an honours level, subjects are a wee bit more complicated, and you're expected to talk in seminars and stuff, which I must note were all online. So the dynamic changed a little bit in that regard. Uh, but yeah, but regarding that, online lectures sounded like a good idea, but to be honest, they were quite a struggle for me anyway. Not being able to properly meet folk studying the same subject was quite rough. Interacting with the lecturer, which I tended to do throughout my uni career, was limited, of course, to emails and maybe the brief interaction you would have during a seminar. Uh, and what I saw was typically the same voices piping up, answering questions and stuff like that. A lot of people kind of, because they weren't present, decided not to be present, if that makes sense, not really engaging with the material, which is fair enough. Of course, it's scary seeing somebody see you in a place of comfort, but for other people, they had to kind of pick up the slack, which I mean, it did happen beforehand as well, but I felt maybe a little bit more now. Of course, access to materials were difficult, but the online library was extensive enough, I guess. I struggle to read digital. I prefer having like a hard copy of something to read. It allows me to engage with the material a little bit more, so not having that was a bit rubbish. Uh, but I ended up investing in a couple of books that I should have really invested in earlier, so I was quite happy. Sorry if you hear the traffic coming past. By the way, I live by a busy road. Uh, Although, like, as well with the online lectures, I felt more conscious of my presentation and the way I conducted myself over Zoom. Of course, as you can see, my background, I feel like I had to kind of curate that a wee bit, try and make it a little bit more me, but also appropriate, of course. So in the way I dressed, I wanted to look alright, even though I was sitting in the house. A bit of professionalism, I guess. Um, I don't know. That just made me a wee bit more conscious of it when I was like. Don't get me wrong. When I was attending online lectures normally, it wasn't as if I was rocking up in like my jammies or whatever. But I didn't want to come across as beige to other people that I was talking to, and you know it's weird having someone, like I mentioned, having an insight into your home, so you kind of you feel a wee bit more exposed, I guess. Um, and I mean, it also made you feel like you could never relax. I constantly felt like I had to focus on uni, and that was what I had to do throughout the entire year, basically. Especially because I had my dissertation to do and stuff. And it really made me think, you know, reflect. See all the people that work in office jobs, they would have had to do that, except it's work. You know, that feels extremely intrusive, and I mean it does have its benefits. You know, the lesson commute time and all that stuff, but you know, sometimes it feels like home and work should maybe be separated a wee bit. I would like to know what you guys would think about that. Uh, this year's also been a wee bit hard as well. I lost my job. I was a bartender, um, and initially I thought, you know, I could reap this to my benefit, you know, but the kind of loss of structure and worrying about money gave me quite a lot more stress, to be honest. Having that kind of regular routine allowed you to dedicate other aspects of your time to that, whereas when you weren't at when you aren't working, you know, you you guilt yourself a lot more. It's obviously complicated, but I didn't feel like I had as much free time, even though technically I did, if that makes sense. And of course, the money issues, I was constantly worrying about money. Always did, but you know, when you've got rent to pay, it's a bit more scary. Uh, of course, every time I also procrastinated, because I mean you're bound to when you're doing anything really, you're bound to procrastinate a little. It felt almost a bit more impactful, you know, especially during this year when my workload really had increased with my dissertation and stuff due, and it felt a lot more important. So every second that I spent, you know, doing anything else, I felt it was impacting my studies. So there's that, I guess. For any of you wondering, my degree is politics and sociology. So I had to divide my units up, accounting for my dissertation, which I had done in politics, although it had sociological elements to it. But just in case you were curious, if you're doing it like a split degree, I guess, or a double degree, I'll pretend that's what it's called. That's how that operates at a later date. Pardon me. So the subjects I done were class and stratification, Scottish Enlightenment in my first semester, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Really tough things to learn about, but I enjoyed it. And in this semester that I've just done, sociology, media and political sociology, which have also been quite good. Although throughout this there's always been that kind of the haunting of the dissertation. I had to get drafts through at certain points of time throughout the academic year. You know, it was a fair workload, but you know, a lot more pressure. There was a lot of weight granted to every action that you'd done, so I guess it was that. But I guess now is the perfect time to talk about these 5 things I've learned from my final year of uni, especially in lockdown. So the first one I would like to talk about is choosing subjects you enjoy, but also look at the coursework requirements and plan ahead, plan appropriately, right? So everyone always talks about how you should always choose a subject that you really enjoy, and that would really drive you when you're wanting to learn. You know, there's nothing easier than learning about something that you want to learn about, right? But you always have to check the coursework requirements, right? Because you could have a subject that you're deeply passionate about, but the coursework might be very courseworky heavy, or it could be exam heavy, or essay heavy, I guess, or you have to have presentations at a certain point. So recommendation is, when you're choosing subjects, have a thorough look at what would be expected of you, right? Because see, when you've got dissertation drafts and stuff like that, you don't want it clashing with other things because it makes it quite difficult. You know, you can't focus on one as much, you know, so try and spread it out a little bit. And also, a lot of people favour different things as well, so a lot of people prefer essay writing. They think they perform better when it comes to that, whereas other people would prefer exams. You know, they like the time pressure, the crunch. For me, I don't mind either. I kind of wanted a mixed bag, so I chose mine appropriately, and it tended to work out not too bad, to be honest, in that regard. Anyway, I've still got 2 essays due, and then that's me finished uni. I don't have exams, but I had exams last semester, so there's that. So yeah, number 1, choose subjects you enjoy, but also look at the coursework requirements and plan ahead. You know, it's dead easy. It'll save you a lot of hassle. Number 2, you don't have to do all the reading. Just do the bits that get the cogs turning, right? So I know this is controversial, right? But not all the required reading is required. It could be if you really struggle, but if you have a kind of innate interest in what you're talking about, or studying, I guess, you don't have to do all the reading. Just do the bits that really inspire you and get the wheels turning in your head, get you thinking and asking questions. So there's nothing worse having to rock up to a seminar with rather not doing enough reading and you have no idea what anybody's talking about, or doing too much and getting really disheartened. That there's nothing worse. It makes even the most exciting subjects seem a bit beige. So I would recommend look through the recommended, even look through the optional reading, find things that you thought were really interesting. Because I mean, the whole point of uni is just to get your head turning, right? It's just to get you thinking critically. So what I would recommend is, you don't have to always do it, not every week anyway, but always look at the things that would make you think. For example, I hadn't really touched much upon Foucault and his theories of power, or his theory of power. But once I got recommended it, I had that in my required reading. I read some of it, and I was like, God, this is really interesting, and it got me spiralling. Whereas for other subjects, there's been things, interests that don't interest me, fields of interest that don't interest me as much, where I've kind of took a step back and went, right, I'll read the bit specifically that has got me interested. So yeah, keep that in mind. Number 2, you don't have to do all the reading, just enough reading to get the cogs turning. I think that's fair. Number 3, engage as much as you can in the seminars. A lot of people feel like you'll be stigmatised for this, but no one's going to judge you for engaging with the subject. You know, that's what you're there for, and there's always that kind of social pressure where you're like, you don't want to be the person that's, you know, yapping all the time. But a lot of people would be very grateful for that. You know, not everybody is built to engage with stuff like this. A lot of people might, you know, extraneous factors that might impact them from really making a difference, and you might be one of them, those people. But just try and engage with it as much as you can. I've got a few friends who I would say, or they would say, they were introverted, and even they made a stab every once in a while. I'm not saying you have to do every subject, but try and make a little bit of engagement, a little bit of a chat flow going. Like I say, a lot of people will thank you for it. There's nothing worse when you're sitting in a seminar and there's just dead air, especially online, but in person, you know, that deeply awkward feeling, it takes away from what you're trying to do, right? So I would say, just take a stab, you know, say anything, try and be funny, say something a bit provocative. I've had people that say things away out of left field, things that aren't really relevant but could connect, you know, and then the lecture just ties it in nicely most of the time anyway. So yeah, always try and keep the conversation flowing. Always try and engage as much as you can. I would say that's key, and that's also number three. So there's that. God, that was bad. Eh, but yeah, so number four, take breaks that aren't stress inducing. Right. So a lot of times personally, I've been guilty of taking breaks before I do something. So I phrase it as I'm preparing myself, so I'm getting into the zone kind of thing. But that's a load of garbage, right? I'm actually just procrastinating to the max. So take breaks that aren't stress inducing, and one of the ways you can do that is, chap out a couple of hundred words or something, or do a certain aspect, or even do a bit of reading, and then take a break, and that way you've achieved something, but also you've almost earned the break. A lot of times when people take breaks, they're not actually breaks because they're so stress induced. They're constantly thinking, "Oh no, I need to get this done," and stuff. But sometimes you need to walk away from something for a bit. You know, think about it, mull over other things, because sometimes when it comes to academia, it can get a little bit overwhelming. So try and take breaks that aren't stress inducing. Try and, even if it's like going out for a walk or going and seeing your pal, especially once lockdown lifts, that'll be a lot easier, of course. I don't know, make dinner, make a bite to eat, make a cup of tea. Those things are so vitally important when it comes to this. So try, just take breaks, right? But try and make them not stress inducing. A break isn't a break if you're constantly thinking about it. The thing, that isn't a break, that's you using your brain at that point, right? So I would say that's number four. Take breaks that aren't stress inducing. Then number five, and I feel like I should have picked up on this one earlier, but I chose not to because I was a wee bit nervous. And I'm not normally like that, but being online, it was a bit scarier. It's easier to interact with people that you physically see. You can pick up cues a lot better as well. But number five, it sounds a bit funny, but annoy the face of your fellow students, right? Message them, banter with them, create a camaraderie, right? Having folk going through the same thing as you is kind of the best kind of peer support, right? Somebody that's also suffering or thriving, I guess, in another way, makes life a lot easier. You can reflect immediately with each other, you can help each other, build each other up, fill in the gaps where, gaps maybe. It just makes life a lot easier, and the constant, annoying people, messaging them, asking them how they are and stuff like that. The thing that happened during lockdown, it was a lot harder to make friends. Friends are quite important when it comes to this thing. If not friends, colleagues, I guess you could look at it in another way, like that. But yeah, just talk to each other. For me anyway, discourse is the best way of learning. I like talking, and I like hearing what other people have to say and arguing and chatting about stuff. Discourse is so fundamental to just learning, full stop. So that is really important, but also think about the connections that you make with these people. These could last for a lifetime. It might not seem it at the start, but it could really develop into something that could blossom. And you never know, you might rely on that person at one point. They might need you. You could have a close friend. There's so much potential there that would go to waste if you just never said anything. And all that help, even if it doesn't seem like you need the help, it's just good to talk to other people in the course, just in case you even miss something. Or you think of something, or they think of something that nobody else has considered, right? Honestly, number five, annoying the face off your fellow students is key. That could even extend to the lecturers as well, to an extent. They've got a busier schedule, but interacting with them, that builds camaraderie, connections, and that's what it's all about. Uni is a place where connections are so fundamentally important. So I would say that that's number 5. And I did put a wee extra one, wee extra point, which most people would think is, rational, but a lot of people don't really engage with this one. So contact the uni if you need any help. They're not going to punish you if you message something and ask a question. At most, you'll get like a snide comment back, but mostly people are there to help. Throughout this, I've had a lot of help talking to lecturers, letting them understand the situation I've been in, loss of work and stuff, a lot of stress. And it's really helped, and there's things the uni does that are immediate, which could really help you out. So I highly recommend that. Talk to your uni. They're not going to punish you, and even if they do hit back with something a bit negative, you can reflect on the situation that you're in, and then you can go on to make better decisions. This bloody chair is going down. There we go, much better. But yeah, the uni's there to help. They're not there to hinder you. They're basically just a mechanism to test you, to make sure that you're suitable for the workforce, right? So just talk to them, right? They're never going to punish you unless you do something really bad. Asking a question or explaining your circumstances isn't really bad, So hopefully those 5 and a bit things have helped you guys out. With my introspection, I thought about these, and they're going to help me when I go into the world of work a bit. Well, hopefully I find a job, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so hopefully they've helped. The pandemic isn't going to last forever, but having had that uni experience prior to the pandemic, and then having this particular uni experience, it's important to come to grasp with these things, and reflecting on the differences, things that you could bring into the other. It's been a really interesting experience for me. It's going to be so impactful for a lot of people for a long time. Things aren't going to change that much from the pandemic, but the world's never going to be the same again as pre-pandemic, and of course, it's also the caveat of this as well. Uni's going to be very different for everyone, but it's vital that that we all share that experience, and that having other folk express this is important, right? So that's why I wanted to share my thoughts, just so you guys know you're not alone when it comes to these struggles, and we all struggle with different things, but hopefully taking into account these 5 and a bit things will make your life easier if you go into 4th year, if you move on from 4th year, or just want that comfort knowing somebody else went through what you went through. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, just shoot us a message on social media, and I'll be happy to talk. But yeah, for now, I'm going to log off, go and eat some French onion soup, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Look at this mop.